is splashing on the fact that Iran has the capability now to strike the UK with a ballistic missile. And of course, some of us a certain age, you think, oh God, here we go again. It's weapons of mass destruction pointing our way, ready to go in 45 minutes all over again, except it isn't, is it? Because 2 long-range missiles were fired towards Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean, thousands of miles from Iran. I think something like 4,000 kilometres, which is near as damn it. I think the distance between the UK and Iran is 4,500 kilometres, 2,700 odd miles. So if they can strike Diego Garcia, can they strike us here? I'm joined by Dr. Melanie Garson, Adjunct Fellow at the Council for Geostrategy, Associate Professor in Conflict Resolution and International Security at UCL. Conflict resolution, God, we could do with more of you on the planet, that's for sure, Melanie. Nice to see you this Sunday morning, and I'm glad I've got a smile. Good morning.
We try.
Yeah, that's all any of us can do. What is your perception of this attempted strike, or the 2 missiles fired towards Diego Garcia, which Iran, I believe, overnight has said the missiles weren't fired by them?
I mean, it's interesting, the point of trying to disclaim them. This has been a point of contention for a long time in the negotiations as a whole, and actually was part of Trump's rationale for going into the war in the first place. That Iran was developing these capabilities for these very long-range missiles. They have a space program. People sometimes sort of forget that where you have a space program, it's the same technology that you need for these intercontinental ballistic missiles. That's how they were sort of developed in tandem together. So the question is, if it was from the IRGC, and the IRGC for a long time, so the previous Ayatollah had limited sort of development of range of weapons beyond 2,000 kilometers. They've been pushing for a long time to expand that limit to 5,000 kilometers. That puts many, many countries well in the range of Iran's capability. And the question is, if it was centrally commanded in this case, is it an attempt to deter the allies from joining what seems to be a push, this coalition to try and get the Straits of Hormuz open, to take greater control there? Is it with that deterrent effect to try and do it? Or was it, as they're trying to claim, sort of a random show of power from another party? The problem is there's a very decentralized command there at the moment, so it's easy for them to disclaim it.
There's relatively fresh news. It's a couple of hours old, and I'd be interested in your view. So Ali Mousavi is Iran's representative to the International Maritime Organization, and Ali Mousavi has gone on the record saying he's signalled a conditional willingness to cooperate on Gulf maritime safety, even as the Strait of Hormuz remains at the centre of the most severe shipping crisis in decades. He's saying diplomacy remains Iran's priority. However, a complete cessation of aggression as well as mutual trust and confidence are more important. But is that a hint of, is there a hint there of a conditional willingness to cooperate, whatever that means in plain English?
Yeah, and this conditional willingness to cooperate is sort of very predicated. We've got a lot of, rising rhetoric at the moment on, timeframes in which the US will hit power plants, so really try and take out the capability. Is that an attempt to get ahead of it? It's sort of redressed by showing that willingness to cooperate. It then throws the other parties, the GCC, any allies, as aggressors rather than willing to cooperate. So it's an interesting, move of but it contradicts in some ways with the sort of attempted attack on Diego Garcia that is actually in breach of many of what they've said at international negotiations, that they weren't developing these kind of capacities. So you've got a huge element if you trust it at all.
That's a really strong point there. Dr. Garson, as an associate professor in conflict resolution and international security, I feel it would be foolish of me not to ask you the blunt $64 million questions. How would you resolve the conflict against Iran in the Straits of Hormuz at the moment? I'm all ears.
I can use like magic 8-ball questions. I'm bouncing whatever I could say. It's a very, we have an escalation right now. Nobody particularly wants to see an escalation. And we have other elements coming into play with this link now increasingly to Russia, Ukraine. We saw also, Russia say that they would step back on providing intelligence. That's the other part of this long range missile. It's where do they have the intelligence capability, the targeting capability? That's likely coming from Russia or China. So Russia then saying, well, if the US, step back from providing intelligence to Ukraine, they'll step back from providing intelligence to Iran. So it's actually a much wider picture, and thinking about where you're going to balance all of those. Getting the Strait of Hormuz open is increasingly exceptionally important, both for civilian elements and to get those flows of energy going again. I would say, and it's a difficult one, that a strong show of allied force, and that's a hugely brave move to take, is actually what's needed. And anything less than that still puts Iran in a victory position, but that takes a lot of commitment from countries that are very much on the edge right now about that.
And also countries that are worried about Russia and probably quite battered still from the memories of at least the last Gulf War, if not the one before. Dr. Melanie Garson, really appreciate a smile and a laugh in these difficult times, and appreciated you responding to my rather disingenuous questions. You listen to Matthew Wright on LBC.